everyone, as a hypnotherapist, I would say this right now anyway, everyone needs an upgrade.
The father-son relationship literally dictates so many people's lives and has such a massive impact.
But now they don't have their own identity. And they're saying yes, 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 but thinking, well, hang on a minute, I need to find who I am, but not reject you guys and not feel that I'm ostracized.
Yeah.
I've got ADHD myself. I can be disorganized, can be messy, but I'm hyper-focused, and when I want to go and do something, I will do it. My ADHD has helped me get to where I am as well. It's about you learning to connect with yourself, and you can be in flow and at peace, and life can be beautiful, and then you can really enjoy life. They talk about hypnosis, you're in a deep state of relaxation, but laser focus, and it's about how you can change belief systems, have new habits, and be a new version of yourself and just feel good. And when you're in that frequency, I swear to you, you can achieve anything.
Welcome, Samira, to the Warrior Academy podcast.
Thank you very much.
It is a pleasure to have you here. Obviously, we know each other and have known each other for a while now.
Yes.
For anyone who doesn't know you, could you share a little about you and what you do?
Okay, so my name is Samira Alexander, and I'm a transformational coach and hypnotherapist, RTT hypnotherapist. Prior to that, I used to be a corporate individual, global macroeconomist, a real estate forecaster, and real estate investor, and entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. And I moved over to the UAE about 17 years ago. And I first initially worked in corporate, and then I jumped ship, and I set up my own business in RTT, in coaching, and I've been doing that ever since for the last 8 years, working with kids and adults, high achievers who are anxious, stuck, or sick. Because I am a high achiever, and I go for things, and I find that a lot of high achievers are suffering from a lot of anxiety, low self-esteem, overthinking, the adults, and I work with a lot of children because of my childhood, what happened to me. So then that's why with a lot of children, I can really understand what they're going through. And I'm sure you understand that as well, the fact that people are going through so much, kids are going through so much with all the things that they have to deal with on a day-to-day compared to what we were going through in our childhoods.
I wonder how much that's changed. How has the world changed so much that things have got harder for kids, or, are we just experiencing things in a different way,
That's interesting. Yeah, probably experiencing a different way. However, because things are, especially social media, things are a lot more faster. They're much more, before, if you were being bullied, we can talk about bullying, but when you were being bullied, you went to school, and if you were being bullied, then you can come home and you don't have to deal with it, right?
No, it follows you. There's no escape.
There's no escape.
Bully can hide behind an alias.
Exactly. Okay, adults have to deal with it, children deal with it. And so there's the whole cyberbullying going on. And so how do you manage that? And so now there's other issues, and now there's a whole mindset of how many likes you have on your posts and things, and people really do actually get upset about that.
Yeah.
Luckily, we know before social media and post-social media, so we can see the difference, but there are a lot of kids who've grown up just seeing that.
That's their motivation in life, right? It's social acceptance from a young age, and that's digital now. That's the main focus.
Exactly.
There's so much we could dig into, so many different topics we could go over. You've got such a depth of knowledge and all this stuff. It'd be great to talk about bullying as well. I didn't realize you were in, corporate world and, commercial real estate, or just real estate. What a switch, right? What a pivot. That's interesting. I'd like to talk about your childhood.
Yeah.
But before we do, just answer that for me. What made you move? What made you switch from corporate life to doing what you're doing now?
So my passion has always been to help others. Ever since I was a child, I knew that I was going to help other people. And as I was growing up, because of all the things that I had to deal with, I worked and studied a lot about the mind, how to overcome things, difficult things. I used to go to W.H. Smith's bookshop on a Saturday and try to read books or try and find things that really interested me about the mind, how to overcome things. I'd find newspaper articles. Trudy Starler used to talk about something about visualization the night before. You do something the following day, and it worked, so I tried it. These kind of things. But the calling for me got stronger and stronger. And yes, I did 2 degrees in economics. I worked in several consultancies. I was headhunted for a job. Actually, before I actually did lots of things. I actually was an economist in the UK for a number of consultancies. Then I took some time out to be an actress, and because my father had passed away, and I felt that I wanted to try and do something before I was 40. was 25 at that time, did that for a couple of years, realized that it wasn't for me. And then I basically became a real estate investor. The buy-to-let market was actually on a upward trend, and I did a lot of research on it. I thought, great, let me just get a map of London and see where we could buy and invest. And I just took the map of London thinking, okay. And then I walked the street, spoke to a lot of estate agents, had no experience whatsoever, and created a 7-figure real estate portfolio for my
Wow. Amazing.
And initially I used to tell people, you should invest here, you should invest here. And a lot of my friends wouldn't believe me, and they said, okay, whatever, Samira. They didn't understand how would I know that. And then in the end, those particular places, property hotspots as they were called at that time, were in the Metro and the Evening Standard. And because they were in those papers, then these friends of mine realized I knew what I was talking about. And then they came back to me, and then I wanted to get advice. And then I thought, wouldn't it be great if I combined economics with real estate, because these are two more of my passions. And lo and behold, every time I kind of think something like that, somebody appears. And I found this woman appeared who was actually a recruitment specialist for the real estate industry. And they were looking for economists, funny enough. So I ended up working for DTZ, which is now called Cushman & Wakefield. So I worked for them for 4 years. And I used to forecast real estate, commercial, residential, in the Europe, UK, Asia Pacific, and also the US. So I was also forecasting and seeing the tracking of the US subprime market, and looking at the interest rates. I knew that the market was going to crash at some point. So I knew that basically at that point that I'd have to leave the UK. And lots of other things happened.
So the decision was your passion changed, but also the market was kind of evolving as well, and it was the right time to leave, right?
So that at that time, that was my passion, that I made a decision I want to live abroad. There was a year before that, I was really depressed. I was 3 stone overweight, really unhappy with my job, really unhappy with my relationship. And I thought, if I have another year, this is like with 2007 coming into the year. If I have another year like this, I'm just going to end it. I just can't have another repeat of Groundhog Day. And so that time I had that massive transition. So prior to that, I ended up working for the real estate company and creating doing all these forecasting and enjoying my job, but it got stagnant. And then 2006, Christmas 2006, 2007 was coming in. I just felt really unhappy. I had to make another shift. Reached out to somebody, and we worked together. I lost the weight. I finished that relationship. I continued to work in this company. Went on a holiday all the way to Australia after a long episode of not traveling. And then on a family holiday, I was coming back on the plane. I said, I want to live abroad. I came back, made that intention, and then by January the 4th, I started applying for jobs. Out of the blue, I was called by a headhunter saying, we've seen your CV from a website from 1.5 years earlier.
Oh, really?
And they said, we have a job opportunity in Abu Dhabi. And I said, where's Abu Dhabi? And said, oh, it's 90 minutes away from Dubai. And I said, let's do it. And so 5 days later, I was in Abu Dhabi having an interview with Aldar. And I got the job. And then 2 months later, I was here. And so I was fortunate enough to work, Aldar, and I worked for Etihad, I worked for all these companies. But then that calling in 2015 got too strong for me. And I felt I had to transition, and that calling got stronger and stronger. And it's just how the universe works, because I always started training in kinesiology. And then one of my teachers, who's Marissa Peer, who helped me, when I was around 30, overcome my issues through her technique and her hypnotherapy and things, she decided she was going to launch her program. And I thought, well, I have to do this. There's no way I can't, because I'm not, it's just the mind and things. So I trained with her in November 2015. I came to work for Etihad for another year. There was redundancies. I knew that was going to happen. And even the day that we were told, February 2017, that we were being made redundant, I was smiling, because I already knew that was going to do something different. And even though, sometimes the universe forces you to do things. And even though I was applying for jobs, every time I worked on my business, I'd get clients. Every time I applied for jobs, where I used to always just apply for 1 or 2 jobs, I'd always get one. I wouldn't get even an interview. So you knew that the universe was moving me in the right direction. And every time I was with clients and then seeing the results, it was just incredible. And I just built my career from there. And in the beginning, I didn't have enough money to even rent a room out to see clients. And now I have my own practice in Dubai. I see other clients in Abu Dhabi weekly, and I have a very six-figure thriving practice. But my passion has always been to help others and to help them in this way. Life is too short, and life is beautiful. And I do live my dream life. I live in my dream place, doing my dream job, you know, and just living my dream life. So why wouldn't I want to do that? And so, yes, it was hard, but equally it wasn't, because it was my purpose. And I know I was meant to do this work, and so I eat, breathe, sleep it. So it's a real where purpose and passion comes together, and you're in that state of flow. And when you're in that state of flow, you're in bliss state. So any issues and challenges you may have, that you can actually tackle in a different way.
Yeah.
Even when I'm tired, I could actually be seeing my clients, and I can get up every morning because I know I'm seeing clients, I'm making a difference. I know that, you know, there's something happening there. It's my passion. As David Goggins talks about, you know, at the pearly white gates. I don't know if you've seen any of his interviews saying, you know, why do you do what you do?
Yep.
It's because I don't want to be up there one day and God tells me that you didn't do this, you didn't do that. You could have been this person, but you end up being this.
Oh yeah.
Remember that.
The worst nightmare is your full potential and looking at you and speaking to you, right?
Exactly. But my worst nightmare is that God says, because I'm very spiritual, I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual, that he says, well, you could have helped this person, you could have helped this person, you didn't.
Right.
So for me, you know, of course I take care of myself, but what I do is what I love. I'm really passionate about.
I think that's really interesting. I think service to others is the greatest fulfillment we get as human beings.
Totally.
I find your journey professionally fascinating as well. You know, when I look back at what I do and why I do what I do, I also went into property investment and, you know, started an SPV company in the UK to renovate properties, and we had quite a few going, and buy-to-lets and flips and all sorts. And I started, you know, getting educated in property courses. And I remember doing these property courses and just thinking, God, this is pretty soulless, really. You know, everyone there just wanted to make money. And
exactly.
And, you know, at the time, I didn't have any money at all. And so it was important for me to do that. And I think, you know, becoming empowered financially is important, because it can then give you more time to go and make more of an impact. But then I started learning more about business and how business can be such a force for good to help other people. And so that's what I moved myself into. And it was interesting because that was around 2017. And when I started to make that switch and just started getting an education in business and philanthropy and all the things that we do within the Warrior Academy, was like those 5 years from 2017 to, you know, 2022 were just complete game changer for us. And I gained so much more fulfillment from that.
Totally.
You know, and so I really do see why you would make that change into what you're doing.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people going down that route. A lot of entrepreneurs go down that route, I think.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have financial freedom, and I think I was always lucky to come a ride away. I am a risk taker. I have always been, and I'm self-starter. Nobody gave me a book. I mean, my earliest journey of being an entrepreneur was 7 years old, when we have a house on the main road, but there's a section where you have to drive into the house, right, and park your car. And for my head, when I was 7, I thought, well, there's a public payment on this side, and there's a public payment on this side, that should be private property. So I should get my brother, my best friend, out there with a mug and charge people a toll fee to go from one side to the other side and charge them 1 pence. I think 1 or 2 people did it, and then I could see my brother being dragged up the drive with this woman, very angry, irate, and my brother screaming his eyes out. And I thought, oh, this didn't work.
Yeah, so it's not sustainable, that business. Yeah. Long term, it's not going to work, is it?
But it was an idea, and I thought, wow. And I,
funny, yeah.
And I really started thinking. I always used to think like this, and but I did go into corporate, and I did that for a certain length of time. But again, I've always been more entrepreneurial, and also the passion I have right now is really where I'm most suited.
So tell me about your childhood. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in London. I was born in Clapham, in Clapham Junction. There's Sir John's Hospital. I think it's closed down now in Lambeth, but so Eccles Road, 29 Eccles Road. And my parents were Pakistani. My father was a civil engineer, and he moved over in the 60s. and he was working, and then my father fell in love with my mum, and then they moved over. And my childhood was interesting. So my nursery school years were great. I can still remember having the orange drink in the little beige beaker, doing little painting, and the teachers were really very lovely, kind, soft people. And I really enjoyed my time there. There was a little church hall, that's where the nursery was, in Clapham Junction. And then I had to go to the big school, Belvedere School, and that's when my life really changed, because from day one, at the age of 6, I was being bullied as a kid at school. From that moment, it really traumatized me. So I was being bullied for being the wrong color and some of the derogatory words that I'd be saying because of my ethnicity. And I really didn't understand why people would be like that. And I didn't understand how people could be so mean. But I was a sensitive kid as well. And I always want to be loving and kind. And it was a real shock for me. And it really traumatized me because it didn't happen in just one school. It happened with a series of schools. And
so the bullying followed you?
The bullying followed me. And
and that's quite typical from what we see as well.
Exactly. And then
until you learn to overcome it, it's just something that follows you like a dark shadow. Right?
Exactly. And I did go and see teachers to speak up, but then, the teachers would not be supportive or not very nice. I remember there was a group of kids who were just in the playground, just laughing at me, making fun of me, teasing me. And I actually went to the playground teacher saying that they're laughing at me and things. And she just turned around and said, well, laughing is good. There's nothing wrong with it. You're taking things too seriously. And that moment in my mind, that decision in my head was, well, if I speak up, I'm not protected. So I'm not going to speak up. And that had an impact on me for years later.
So how many years were you bullied for?
I think I was bullied from the age of 6, in the varying schools, even in my secondary school, because then I moved schools, I moved location, I moved to Putney, Southwest London. I went to a private school then. But also, not just me being bullied, it was also seeing my parents being treated badly or were discriminated against. Like some people would say derogatory words to my mother on the bus or something, or my father. So
you basically grew up surrounded by racism.
Yes.
And then you watched not just yourself go through it, but your parents go through it.
Exactly.
So when you're looking at your parents for strength and resilience and looking for, is life going to be like this forever? When you look at your personal circumstances, you then look at your parents, you're like, well, yeah, it is, because that's what they're experiencing as well.
Yeah, and not just that my parents are weak. At that time, I thought, well,
You thought they were weak?
Yeah, because I thought, they're not going to protect me. And I really did.
What effect did that then have on you?
Well,
do you think your parents are weak? What do you think? You need to seek different role models, or?
Well, I tried to, yeah. And I also felt that I was inferior. So I developed an inferiority complex. And even though I was still a fighter, I had to try and have to fight and overcome things. There was a lot of anxiety. There was a lot of fear. And it got to a point where I couldn't even pick up the phone to speak to people. Yeah. It got that bad. But I still there was still a lot of fire in me and a feistiness in me that tried to overcome it. But even when I went to the private school, it was a very small school, for young girls. And even there, I was being bullied in a different way, or I wasn't accepted, because then the other side of that happened was because I came from a culture where, you're not allowed to have boyfriends, you have to live a certain way. It was quite difficult for me to live a life in the UK as a Brit, but then have another kind of life, as in like good girls, study, they do this, they do that, they study, and they don't have boyfriends. And I remember going to a birthday party where it was mixed, and one of the boys, we got on. I was only 13, for goodness sake, but the fact is those days, you'd have the phones that we had. I'm sure the younger kids won't know that, but those phones were landline phones, and
with the cord.
Yes. And then basically this guy got my phone number and called me up, and my mother picked up the phone, and he
was high risk call, that is, isn't it?
It was a very high risk call, and he basically wanted to call me up and find out if I wanted to come and see and watch play rugger. And I would have loved to, but the fact is my mother picked the phone up and she wasn't happy that a boy called the phone, and she was very upset because my father at that time had moved away to Nigeria as an expat to work out there, because again, in the UK, he wasn't getting the opportunities as a civil engineer.
Right.
So he moved and worked in Nigeria to help and provide for us. And so my mother was thinking, there's a boy on the phone, and she was very upset. I thought, oh my God, I'm in trouble. And so I had to say to this boy, look, it's lovely to ask for the invitation. I'd love this invitation. However, you know, I come from a culture that I'm allowed to go out with boys, and I'm really sorry. He decided to tell this to the group of girls that I'd been invited at the party, and then I kind of got ostracized in the classroom. So I got ostracized in the classroom as well. I didn't really have that many friends. Sounds really sad, doesn't it? There were a few of us, kind of the periphery people, and we had to keep, you know, we were the only ones who were kind of the outsiders, that we weren't the cool girls. And so basically I really just focused on my education, because I also saw on the other side of all of this that I remember, I'll give you another story, when I was at a dinner table with my dad's friend and his family, and me and my brother and my mother having dinner, a Sunday lunch. And my parents were always very supportive, and they wanted me to be educated and things. However, my dad's friend was saying to me, oh, so what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, well, I'm going to go to university, I'm going to travel the world, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And he just paused while he was eating, and he said, well, I don't think good Pakistani girls do that. They grow up and they get married. And I was just like really stunned. My father didn't say anything. Obviously, he was being polite, but I thought in my head, well, I'll show you. And that's what I did. I mean, the thing is, I wasn't supported by people around me. The people were growing up and getting married, having arranged marriages, and I thought, that's not me. And that's not going to happen to me. I refuse.
These two kind of cultures that you were a part of, kind of fighting against each other, right?
And guess what? I wasn't accepted in either one. So I was on the outlier on either one.
Yeah.
So yes, I had an inferiority complex. I want to travel the world, and where do I belong? I don't belong, but I belong anywhere, because I don't identify with these people. I don't identify with these people. And then on top of that, when I did go to college, I was doing my A-levels, then you either had the people who are completely Western, you know, if you're Asian or if you're from an ethnic minority, you either adopted the completely Western way, or you became completely the Asian way and completely 100% that way. There was no one in the middle, and I just wanted to get the best of both worlds, but there was hardly of us around.
There was no bridge between the two.
There was no bridge, and again, I felt that I was isolated and alone. And but I still tried to, and that's why I was really reading the books to how overcome my mindset and try to overcome these things, this fear and anxiety and worry that I had. Even when I went to school to try and get help and support of what my anxiety at that time, there was really no one to give me that support. And it was quite hard, and I tried to read these books or find these techniques to help me. And I ended up going to university, getting a degree, and but again, I still was successful. I did a 4-year degree. I became one of the only women who did a internship at the HM Treasury. I was there on Black Monday, where basically interest rates went up like from 10% to 13% and then 15% when we were in the ERM. I don't know if you remember that, but we were. And then basically the whole place was running around like a headless chicken. What are we going to do? When are we going to pull out? So I was fortunate enough to be in those kind of environments. I worked with a lot of, male-dominated environments as an economist and undergraduate as well. Again, then that took another turn where I decided, okay, I met somebody at university, and he was not that he was Muslim, but he wasn't the same culture. Again, that was another issue. But then I thought, okay, we'll get married. And then his viewpoints and his identity of what he expected of me was different from what I expected. And then I had to go and path my own way. So I had to go the road less traveled. So I had to create my own way and create my own path. And that's when, I had to really overcome a lot of things. And then and then my father died at 25 suddenly, and that had a huge negative impact on me again.
And you weren't expecting that at all? He wasn't sick before or anything like that?
He had a heart problem, but he was getting help. And then suddenly, out of the blue, he had a major heart attack and passed away.
Just as you're trying to find your feet, where you sit in the world, another major disruption happens.
Exactly. And the other side of that is I'm highly intuitive, which is another gift I have, but I was trying to find my way around that as well. And I kind of discussed it with somebody, a healer, and she said, oh, you're psychic, because I really did think I was having mental health issues. I said, what's that? And then she gave me this book. And I said, what, people write about this stuff? And she said, yes. I said, there's a whole world of people like that, really? And that was another thing that I went through. And and these people may find this strange, but I had a kind of a premonition or something kind of thing where my father may not be around, but I didn't believe it. And it was really bizarre.
So you didn't believe that he had passed away?
No, I had a premonition. It was like a dream. You know when we have dream states, okay? And I know this may sound strange, but I'm being open and honest about this. Yeah. This is what exactly happened. I would, as I was growing up, I just sense things, feel things, and I thought, what is this? And that's hence I saw this healer, and she said, you can pick things up. In the run up to my father was ill. I mean, he'd had this heart attack, but he was getting better, and everything was good. And we know how we have dreams about our parents passing away, and you wake up, and you get really worried, and you think that, but it's just a dream. This time, it was just this one morning I was at university. I was doing my master's in economics at Manchester, and I was half awake, half asleep, and it was just like I had a sense of feeling of calling that I was being told, it was not me, but it's like my soul being told that, your father's going to pass away. And it's like a warning. And it's like my soul was saying, okay, and understood it. But when I woke up, I thought, that's really weird. And I didn't really want to believe that. And so I'd gone to see him, and it was a run up to Christmas. And he was fine. I didn't want to leave his side, but I thought, okay, he's getting better. So having some tests, there's no big deal. And I was going to stay up in Manchester over Christmas. And on the Friday night, the eve of Christmas Eve, I saw Godfather 3. And then there's a scene, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it's this very traumatic scene where a father-daughter scene, and it really touched me. And I called my mother up and said, look, you're going to the hospital tomorrow, can you ask Dad to give me a call? I'd just love to hear his voice. She said, sure. Anyway, she forgot to tell him, and I got a call at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon that my brother said, look, Dad's had a bad turn, just come down now on the train and see him. I said, okay. And when I put the phone down, my legs were shaking. I thought, I hope nothing happens. Anyway, we didn't have mobile phones at that time, and I think that was great that we didn't have mobile phones. I jumped on a train like half an hour later, because we're quite close to this train station. It took me 2.5 hours to get from there to Euston, and then from there, by the time I went to Charing Cross Hospital, it was 10 o'clock in the evening, and I walked in, and I saw his relatives. I think, why are they here? I just thought it was really bizarre. And I walked in, and I saw a cousin of mine, and I thought, okay. And I said, what's happening? And they wouldn't tell me anything. And I said, like, is my father dying? Can you just let me know? And she couldn't say anything. And I just turned around to the nurse. I said, can you just tell me if my father's dying? Because I need to know. Because I always had it in my head that I'd always be there. And she said, I'm really sorry, but your father died 5.5 hours ago. Wow. And it was like the biggest shock of my life. And obviously I screamed down the corridor. And then my brother found me and took me into a room, and it was unfathomable to understand that how he could have passed away. And then that he passed away, and then there was a part of me thinking, what was that kind of premonition? What else was that? Did I not listen to that? There was a lot of guilt. There was a lot of feeling that how could that happen? And for 8 years, and you feel that you're just about going up on that curve of just starting my new, just before graduating, and you lose someone that is supposed to be kind of a pillar for you, even though I was always seeing all the time. And that was a massive shock for me, because obviously growing up, I felt I didn't have the support, but at least I had him there, my mum, to some level, and then now he's not there. And yeah, that was a massive, 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 massive shock.
That was the first time you had lost someone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Majorly, yeah.
Yeah, someone very close, obviously.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it kind of makes you look at the world differently, right? Because up until that point, impermanence is not something you really consider. You think everything is impermanent around you. It's like everything's going to carry on as it always is. Why would it change?
Exactly. And also, then it was about him not being there, that I could just go to, because we'd have laughs, and he loved me and adored me. He was very proud of me. I mean, he was a father who said to me, you know, I said, what shall I do? He was none of those fathers that you should be a doctor, you should be, you know, an engineer. He said, do whatever you feel you want to do. He was very supportive and loving. He was very kind.
Which would have been challenging for him, coming from a, you know, a traditional place.
Yes.
You know, wanting you to be a certain way, but seeing this kind of friction of the two cultures within you, but then being open-minded enough to say to you, you have to do your own thing.
Exactly. And he was always encouraging in that way. And he was such a kind man. I learned a lot from him and my mother, because he was such a giving man and he was so generous. And, you know, he actually, I remember a time where he met a family on a bus who had been kicked out of a home. I don't really know the story. I was only very young. And he brought them home and gave them a room in the house.
Wow.
And they stayed with us with their little baby for 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And we came very close to them. You know, I wonder where they are now, but that's the kind of acts that he did that we learnt from. And when he passed away, there were so many people came to his funeral that I hadn't met, who came up to me and said to me, your father was an amazing man. He helped me. He bought me a plane ticket to do this. He did this. He paid for my education to do this. And we didn't know any of this.
Random acts of kindness.
Random acts of kindness.
This is how he chose to live his life,
Exactly.
without having anyone to see it or prove it. It's how he acted when no one was watching, right?
Exactly.
I think that's true legacy. You know, I think you look at the word legacy, and it's like passing down something to the next generation or whatever it is. And it's often, we feel like we need to leave things behind, right? But I think, you know, passing on education is the most important thing. It's the things you leave in people, not with people.
1,000%. And that was his legacy, and I continue to have that legacy. But on the other side, what led him to have the heart attack, because he was only 58. And what happened was because of this whole ERM things. My father was a civil engineer. He'd worked out in Nigeria for about 5-6 years. And while he was on holiday, there was a military coup there. So it wasn't safe to go back with the expats. So they decided to stay here. My mother was very entrepreneurial. She was a housewife. She was very entrepreneurial. She went and bought a bed and breakfast hotel in Central.
Oh, really? Wow.
And she wanted to run it, but in the end, my father started to run it. Now, I think my father was an entrepreneur, and it wasn't his thing. And again, I think he went through a lot of pressure and stress, especially when interest rates went up at that time, from 10% to 300, you know, like to 13%, and then 50% in one day, 500 basis points. So there was the UK went into recession, okay? And obviously mortgage payments, which is what's been happening in the last year in the UK right now, mortgage payments were sky high. So obviously it impacted businesses a lot. And I think that caused a lot of stress for him. And he wasn't able to articulate that, which led him to have that heart attack, and eventually he passed away.
Yeah.
And that's why, I mean, I felt there was a lot of guilt for me, where I felt I hadn't helped him or supported him. I was 25. I mean,
So you mentioned you felt shame or guilt, the fact that you maybe should have done something to prevent it or to help him, or even at that age, 24, 25.
Yeah, I felt that.
What would you have done differently?
Maybe I would have been there with him at the hotel. Maybe I supported him in some way.
Just tried to get in there and access that kind of repressed emotion around the pressure he was experiencing.
Well, I think I was too young to even understand the repressed emotion, because I mean, now I know about it all, but at that time I don't. But I think maybe I could have just been more of a support. Maybe I was more absorbed in what I was doing. I don't know. But it really did haunt me for a very long time. And I felt that I couldn't help him. And that's why the work that I do, I help a lot of men. I work with a lot of men who are going through a lot of pressure, stress, that they can't really discuss with their families, or culturally they can't discuss it, or men generally can't discuss it because they're holding up a lot of emotion, or they're made to feel that they can't cry. They have to be strong, but even strong people have to have support, and sometimes they don't get the support. And a lot of men I work with, they feel that they've been holding on and they can handle it, but at some point the body says, hang on a minute, we need to address this.
Yeah, the body expresses certain ailments, right? It's interesting. If I look at your story, just observe it, a lot of, you're looking at your dad in particular, highly driven guy, taking on loads of pressure, feels it's his responsibility to provide for everyone around him, not just your family, but random people.
And his own other family, you know, his siblings as well.
Right. So this is a guy who's going out there and putting himself in, sacrificing himself to serve other people and taking on huge amounts of pressure, very, very driven, but at the detriment to his own mental health. Do you think that is why you seek to work with driven people who have the same issues that your dad had?
You know what? I think I was born driven. I don't know I myself. I know that I think that I have a lot of drive. I've always been a self-starter because no one, I mean, as I said, all the things that I've done, I mean, even I had the opportunity to go and work at Sky News and spent a day with them, and I was going to be looking into being a news presenter and things like that. But and it was a great, interesting day. But in the end, it just wasn't. There was something about it I didn't connect with. But I've always been driven. I've always wanted to be successful and ambitious. I've always been like that from a very, very young age. So I've always been a self-starter. And a lot of my friends, a lot of people around me see me doing the thing first and experimenting with it. I feel the fear and do it anyway, okay? And so I can really hand on heart say that I've tried things that I want to do, like who would say that I could be an actress take time out and be an actress, or take time out and No, I didn't have any experience in real estate. I read one newspaper article about a woman who bought a 2-bedroom apartment in Shepherd's Bush, and basically she rented it out, and the rent actually covered the mortgage, and then there was a surplus money, and that was the start of the buy-to-let market. And I thought, my father passed away by then, we sold the hotel, but I thought that, okay, let's start investing. And I got a map of London, that's what I did. So all the things that I've done, I've never had somebody say, hey, why don't you do this? Hey, why don't you do that? And everyone underestimated me, by the way, as well. They used to think I was really, airy, lightheaded kind of girl, because I was very smiley and happy, tried to be with people. I became a people pleaser. Right? So everyone thought, okay, she's a people pleaser, she's nothing else, right?
That's very typical. Again, if you experience inferiority complex, it's typical for people to go down that people pleasing route, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so then, but as I grew older and I knew I wanted to go and achieve and live my life the way I wanted to live it, I realized that I had a lot of confidence in myself. And the other thing that you mentioned earlier, which is exactly what happened, when I went into corporate, the bullying followed me. And it was really interesting. I had 3 bosses that were bullies. And it was incredible and I think, why am I being bullied? And I thought, I've got to change this. And I didn't know what I was being triggered, and then going all the way back to being a little 6-year-old, and then how I'm dealing with that. Until one day I decided to speak up. And then that moment, everything started to change, it shifted. And
whenever I look back at the hundreds of kids and parents we helped through bullying, there's always this element of the bullying continues until your level of courage is greater than your level of uncomfortability. So sometimes for different people at different stages, that uncomfortability needs to be so high. It is so high, but it raises and gets higher, and then their courage slowly creeps up. And there's almost always this like moment of make or break it, right? And then because of that moment, it's like a fork in the road. They either go down the victim route or the not a victim route, and they essentially, their character evolves because of that.
Exactly.
And it's fascinating to me because a lot of the super successful people I've interviewed for the book, Not a Victim, which we've written the stories about them in the book, they attest the bullying they went through. The success they've got now to the bullying they went through. Like they don't look at it and think there was a real disaster that I was bullied. They look at it like this was fundamental to forming my character and giving me the success I've now got in my life.
That's interesting because for me, I think even if I hadn't had the bullying, I would have been, I was driven. And I think the bullying actually scarred me.
You think it slowed you down?
It slowed me down. I think it slowed me down. But I still felt the fear and did it anyway. Okay? But I realized that again, there was some belief systems. I mean, now I don't care what people think of me or what they say. I know who I am and I'm comfortable with that. And the people who are going to vibrate to me are going to be vibrating to me, and they're not. And those who are not, they're not.
Such a shame that we take so long to learn that, isn't it? Like human beings, it's typically when we're in our 30s, I think, that for most people, that they're like, it doesn't actually matter what people think. They're too busy thinking about themselves anyway. And in our head, we're thinking, they're thinking about me. But the reality is that just thinking about themselves. And so we're a bit, there's almost like a level of arrogance we've got to think that they would be thinking about us all the time. But it just takes us so long. If we had just learned that, if you could just say to a teenager, this is the reality, no one actually cares.
Nobody cares, exactly.
And then when you're 50, at 60, you're just like, well, you see some of the things that I see 50 and 6-year-olds say, I'm just like, you really don't care what people think, do you? So, but it's a real shame. But it's just part of life, I think, to, you navigate that, you learn that over time.
Because I think you're trying to find yourself. In your 20s, you're still trying to find who you are and where you are in the whole big scheme of things in the world and what's your identity. Even so, I still wanted to fight over it and I still tried to stand up, but I was like shivering inside. I was overcome.
This is the moment where you stood up to the bullies.
Yeah, I mean, I think any time that I felt that I had to overcome things, I still would push myself to do it, but I'd have a lot of fear. I'd feel in angst.
But the moment you're explaining now is the moment where throughout your life you hadn't stood up to the bullies like you're about to.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly, in the corporate world. It's when I started standing up in the corporate world.
When you were younger, did you stand with the bullies or not?
Yes, I mean, I think that when I went to this particular comprehensive school for about 3 months and I was being bullied there and I stood up to them as well.
How did you stand up to them?
I just basically pushed them back or said I answered them back.
And their bullying immediately stopped?
Well, they would try and say things and walk away, and I'd walk away hoping they're not going to come and beat me up.
And did they?
And they didn't come and beat me up. But I was inside, I was shivering, thinking, oh my God, are they going to come and do that?
Well, that's courage, isn't it? You do the thing that scares you, regardless of how your body feels about it. The mind's decided, this is what we're doing. And you've made the decision to do something scary and overcome it, right?
Exactly. So I would always do scary things, but I'd try and overcome it. But I'd be like a shivering wreck. And then I'd always see this pattern of why am I basically getting bullied? What is happening here in the corporate workplace? And until I stood up for myself, and then and that's when it shifted. Also, I'd watching all motivational things. Tony Robbins was someone that I recently used to follow until I came across Marissa Peer, who was my teacher, and she was the one who really changed my life because I was always someone who was very positive, overthinking, overcoming things. And I had a lot of challenges. After my father passed away, after he passed away, which was a shock, the hotel that we had to sell, the insurance money didn't come through because apparently the insurance policy lapsed by 2 months or something and they wouldn't pay out. We had to sell that place eventually. We decided to sell it. And then somebody else tried to shaft us in that scenario. But there was always these things happening. And then I ended up waking one day. I ended up working in a corporate job. I got the corporate job and I started working there. And then 6 months down the line, I woke up one day and my hands weren't working. And they were all swollen. And that was when people started saying, oh, you've got repetitive strain injury, RSI. And at that time, people didn't know really what it was. And they said, oh, you'd be off forever, you'd be on disability allowance and things like that. Wow. I remember going to Harley Street and seeing this doctor and he said, oh, well, you'll not be able to write again. You won't be able to pick up a pen. You'll be on disability allowance. I thought, what? That's not my life. And I made a decision that basically I'm going to overcome this. I eventually found a physiotherapist who worked with me and I was able to recover fully. And I went back to work. And then since then, I've been always able to manage it. I've never had a problem. But these are times where basically we're just about to sell the property. On the day, the gentleman decided to drop the price by $20,000 and had to make a decision. At that time, we closed, but I said to myself, I'm never going to do that again. And then basically these kind of things. So I always made in my head, whatever someone tells me, I'm not going to believe it. Because that's bullshit. You choose the reality. I choose my reality. And that's how I started overcoming things as well and not believing what other people said. Or people say, don't do that. That's not for you. And the other mindset was, good girls or Asian girls, they don't go and study too hard. They don't want to do a PhD. They don't go and set up businesses. They don't do this. I thought, really? Well, watch me. And so that's interesting. So that the energy there you're actually getting from that, right? It's like almost this competitive drive, which is almost like saying, I mean, would you say some of that energy is almost like a bullying environment, right? They're saying to you these expectations, or that you can't do certain things. I think that is more about because they've got limiting beliefs themselves, and a certain way. So they're not outwardly bullying you, but they're putting you in a box and saying, this is what we believe you're capable of. Yeah, exactly. And for you, that fuels you to say, because you said that, I'm going to need more now. Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of people underestimated me. I'd always surprise people. Always have surprised people in my career.
Do you like surprising people?
I don't go out deliberately going out looking to think. I mean, I'm so busy in my own thing that I don't think about it. I'm actually shocked that I end up surprising people. I think, wow, you must really think that I'm an idiot. That
I think a lot of really successful people often do things because they really enjoy saying to the world, "You said I can't do it. Guess what? I can do it." And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. As long as you're living close to your values and doing what you want to do, if it gives you extra motivation and energy to do things, to do incredible things, then that's fine, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes, and I don't believe there's a word can't. I don't believe there's a word. It's always can.
Yeah.
Figure a way out and you'll do it. And that's what I've always adopted in my life.
It can't be done. Well, we'll see about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I was really surprised about the amount of people you see it in their eyes, that they were shocked when I said, I've achieved this, I've done this, or, hey guys, I'm going to Abu Dhabi now, I've got a new job, and people looking at me. And I think there are a lot of people.
So imagine I'm just trying to picture you saying this to people, like, I've just achieved this, I'm just moving there. Were you kind of angry that they were shocked, or were you just like, this is great? Sad.
I felt sad because I felt that.
Why do they have this idea in their head that you can't do something?
Yeah.
What's wrong with me?
Exactly.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think that's just your perception of them, or do you think they actually thought that?
I think some people, were a bit. I think there's a couple of things. I think there were some people it made me sad that had people underestimated me. I think also it triggered something within them, because a lot of people like to be in their own comfort zone. And when somebody else is growing out their comfort zone, I'm not all about growth mindset, and I'm in the right country to be in a growth mindset. But other people are not in the growth mindset. They like to see it on the outside, but they don't have the energy or drive or the self-belief to do it. And I don't know if it was self-belief, but I thought, well, I'm going to do it, or I'm just going to try and see what happens. And it's all experimentation. And when I achieved it, when I basically, when I passed my driving test, and I passed it first time around, just under in 17, and when I told people, they were shocked. And when I initially joked around with them.
Why were they shocked?
Because I don't know, they seemed to be shocked, thinking that basically why she's done it so quickly. I initially joke around with them saying, "Oh, I failed," and this, the other, and suddenly they'd have a different reaction when I say that. Then I'd be basically when I basically set up the real estate company, and nobody believed me. When I basically worked as an undergraduate, they thought I wouldn't get the job. I got it. A lot of things.
So looking back, you're joining up the dots of people having expectations of you, which you smashed through.
Totally.
That's interesting.
I actually love that, actually. I smashed them. People still underestimate me, or they have a perception. Some moments I have a
I can see how that kind of compounds and then motivates and, grows.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't go out to do it deliberately. I just want to live my life and do things. I think I want to grow and develop, and I want to be around people who are like-minded. That's what I love high achievers.
Very focused and
driven, exactly. And so coming back to your question about, why I like working with high achievers, because I get them and they get me. And I think the world of therapy and kind of coaching and things may not be all high achievers. And if people need to get help, they rather work with somebody who is a high achiever, who's got the experience, as opposed to just start training and therapy or some coaching and not had the experience of life or that drive within them. So I do work with a lot of men, and I actually get on with a lot of men, actually.
Great to talk to you about male mental health. I mean, it's something I've been studying a lot and speaking to a lot of people about, and on podcasts and interviews, and I've got a lot of my own thoughts around it. Do you think that there is a difference between male mental health and female mental health?
I think mental health. I think how men perceive it is they're made to feel. Look, there's a perception that men are not allowed to cry. They're not allowed to. They have to be strong all the time, and that's fine. But they start at a very young age. But the thing is, men do go through a lot, and like as I said about my father, there's a lot of pressure. It could be corporate world, the pressure of taking care of a family, money, finances, dealing with their own health, anxiety, or issues at home, how they're dealing with their bosses. And I've worked with a lot of people who are high achievers, who are top of their game, and they're suffering from anxiety and panic attacks. I work with many, many people who are...
And they do that in silence, basically.
And they do it in silence. And the thing is, they take on more and more and more until it becomes a problem where they really have to get addressed. they think that just physical activity and eating healthily is the way forward, which I do support.
Helps, but
it's not 100%.
It's a piece of the puzzle.
It's a piece of the puzzle, because the thing is, they think, okay, I'm strong, I can handle things, I can deal with this, push through. And I'm all about that as well, to some level. However, there's a point, if you keep taking on and not addressing it and connecting with, because a lot of guys, there's women out there as well, but a lot of guys are disconnected with themselves. They've shut themselves down, especially the younger guys who are sensitive and things, they weren't allowed to cry, or they've had traumatic childhoods, or father being very dominant, and they weren't allowed to be who they were. You're going to be like this, you're going to be like this. And so they've created a mask of themselves, or they've shut themselves down, don't want to connect with themselves. They have to be pushing forward and getting it done. And that's fine, but it actually bites them in the ass in the end. Sorry to say that. And what happens is that you can end up having panic attacks and anxiety. You could be driving around the Sheikh Zayed Road, minding your own business, but out of the blue, you could have a panic attack. Yep. And you may think it's to do with the Sheikh Zayed Road. It's nothing to do with the Sheikh Zayed Road. It could be it's so many things. A lot of guys don't want to switch off. Why are they finding it difficult to sleep? They can't switch off. Their mind they're on all the time. They have to achieve, because that's a way of feeling their identity, their self-esteem. And they're not comfortable being by themselves and being still with themselves, because if they are, they're not comfortable with who they are. And sometimes they don't even feel anything. And I mean, even in the last month, I worked with men who sometimes don't even know why they're coming to see me, but they maybe can't sleep, and these are all high achievers. They are top of their game, CEOs, heads of, running, in top companies, and who feel a bit disconnected, or they want to, they just want to explore something. They don't know there's something off, but they're not sure what it is until they actually come and see me. And then when we do the work, and sometimes they don't get it. And then when they actually start doing the work, like this guy, I mean, even in the last month, the guys have said to me, one guy said to me, "Why I came in a different person, I'm leaving a different person." And the whole idea, it's not about them sitting there crying, in front of their team members or anything like that. It's about connecting with your heart. Yeah. We all have to be connected with ourselves and believe that we're good enough, because we are a 10. Now, that's another thing. High achievers say, we're only a 5 out of 10, and when we climb Mount Everest, when we achieve this, then we're a 10. Yeah. We have to stop that.
Then I can be happy, then I'll be accepted.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. We are a 10, we are whole and complete. From get-go, we're being told we're not good enough. We are good enough, full stop. And we have to believe that we are a 10, because we are a 10, we're a human, we are created, whether you believe in God or believe in even the universe, whatever it is, we created whole and perfect. You wouldn't say to a child, "Are you only good enough 5 out of 10? Would you? You would say that to a child, so why would you say it to yourself? Yeah. And when you are believing that you are a 10, as in we are human and we're good enough, full stop. We may need different skills that we have to learn, and like we may have to learn Spanish for something, or we have to learn how to drive. Those are skill sets we're learning, and we're going to be rubbish at the beginning, but we're going to improve. But we always start off from a basis of a 10, of believing that we're good enough. And when we believe that we are a 10, that energy is very different of how you're learning, how you're developing yourself, how you're dealing with life, how you're dealing with challenges, how you become more resilient. You let the negative not affect you the way it is. You don't second guess yourself, and it's a game changer. But you do have to connect with yourself, and you need to be more still within yourself. And most guys, there's the women as well, saying, let's go. I can't stop. I don't like being by myself. I don't want to be still. I don't want to be thinking. And you realize that they become high achievers, because high achievers themselves have become high achievers because they seek validation. Because as kids growing up, they want validated as kids, whether it was at home or whether it's school, and you seek validation in the external. And what happens is, when you're a high achiever and you push and push and push, why do we get burnt out? Because you're doing it from your head, not connected from your heart. You're pushing yourself and driving. It's like ants. We have to fight. We have to go through this. Let's push through it. And it's fun at some point, but at some point, your body says, hang on a minute. Yeah. I can't take this anymore. I'm overloaded. My nervous system is too much, and I need to, and then that's anxiety attack, unresolved emotions coming up.
I think it's clear that the greatest downfall of men is their lack of kind of willingness or their ability to process their emotions, right? This emotional repression. And I think for a lot of men, they feel like if they do that, they're weaker.
Yeah.
But my perspective on it is understanding and processing your emotions properly is such a strength, because it means that you can actually take on more pressure. And I think that the reality of life is, if you want success in life, that's directly correlated to the amount of pressure you're willing to take on or able to take on in a healthy way. So if you look at it like, you could take on loads of pressure in an unhealthy way and eventually break.
Exactly.
But if you could take on that same amount of pressure in a healthy way, well, then you could just scale that up.
1,000%.
And so for me, it's really, really important that we teach emotional regulation for young boys. And when we started the Warrior Academy, it was basically teaching emotional regulation to young men. And, in a rundown inner city type boxing club where they just wanted to fight each other. And so it was really fascinating for me to watch that and to work with them doing that. But I also think, when you look at guys and what they typically go through and the environments they're in, if you look at the household, right, in a typical traditional household where you've got a man, a wife, and you've got 2 or 3 kids or whatever, I would say that often the wife and the kids look to the dad, the father figure, for emotional stability. And in that sense, leadership of the family of, okay, everything's going to be fine in a crisis. Don't worry, the house is on fire, but don't worry, or we're being robbed, but don't worry. It's like, this is the direction we're going to go in. And so I would say that in a lot of situations, if the leader in whatever that situation is would be reactive or erratic or not calm and able to control his emotions, and not repress, but able to observe his emotions in a healthy way, then people would lose faith in their leadership, right? Well, in a lot of ways, if they watch them react rather than process it.
Well, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of anxiety. Mm-hmm. I work with a lot of children or adults, and I know the behaviors that they're basically anxious, overthinking, have got ADHD, and they're numbing themselves out for food. I used to numb my trauma. I was an emotional eater. But other people will be alcohol, cigarettes, porn, drugs, and men will be numbing themselves out and all those kind of things, and women. And I know, that the trauma is from childhood. And what is it? A very angry father. It could be an angry mother or narcissistic parents. But it's about, like, if you're looking at the male household now, it depends on which culture you're looking at as well. Because in the Western culture, obviously, we can have both parents working as well. When that happens, and, is there a balance in there? And it could be the mother being angry as well. There's a lot of anger issues with mothers as well, because of pressure they're going through, manage the household and kids, and working, and they may not be getting the support from the man. But however, there is that everyone's looking to the man and like the father figure. And of course, but if he's always angry because he's had his own trauma, and trauma is generational as well. Yep. And what's his experiences, and he can't take the pressure, or he's just an angry person, then it has a huge negative impact on all the everyone, and it has an impact on the children. And even if they think that it doesn't, it does. And I've spoken to many parents about this, because I work with children, and when somebody tells me that their kid is like an emotional, has got an eating disorder and they've got OCD at the age of 12, I would say that they've actually had severe trauma in their life and anxiety at home that's led them to that. There is no other way, and I know that really well because I've done 1,000 plus.
Often they won't see it. They'll just,
exactly.
I had a great childhood, and then when you actually do the deep work, they'll soon start to realize, well, actually,
Exactly.
But it's interesting. I totally agree. Trauma is generational, and just like bullying, it follows you like a dark shadow, and it's almost our responsibility to face that before we have kids, or while we have kids. It just pops up anyway, and you'll notice it, right?
Yeah.
And the monsters that you refuse to fight, you're basically saying, there you are, kids, you can fight those. But I think a lot of the time it's easy to judge our parents as, they passed it on to me or whatever, and they could have resolved 9 out of the 10 traumas that they experienced, right? Because let's face it, they probably had a very, very different and maybe more full-on childhood than you. In the last 50, 60, 70 years.
Exactly.
And so there's one core element of that insecurity or toxic trait or whatever, which they then pass on to you. But we fixate on that rather than thinking, actually, they probably did a pretty good job overall. Do you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. Look, absolutely. And even when I speak to parents, I say, there's no judgment on you. is that we need to make sure that we all believe and understand what's going on. And like, I do have men calling me up and saying, listen, I've got some anger issues as well. You know, I'm seeing it and I don't want it to impact my children. I can see it in my kids and I don't want it to impact my kids as well. Mum's doing as well, or I'm feeling stressed, or I'm feeling disconnected. And they're not sure why they're feeling disconnected. Yeah. And I think it's just more about, because Marshall Goldsmith talks about this, what gets you here will not get you there, which you just said, which is right. You, as a high achiever, you get here, you get all the success, you're getting all the money, you're getting whatever you're getting the success, and you're thinking, well, I'm still not happy, and I'm
sometimes less happy.
Exactly, and now I'm still under a lot of pressure, and the tools or the methods and techniques I've been using are not working any longer, because you're doing it through angst, you're doing it through perfectionism, which is doesn't help at all.
It's not coming from the right place. The energy isn't coming from the right place.
Exactly. Yeah. So as soon as you connect with you and connect with you feeling good about you, you don't have to declare it to the whole world that I love myself. You can just say it to yourself and be connecting with you and your younger version of you, connecting with your heart and let go of the baggage. You can regulate your emotion, you regulate your thoughts, processes, and rewire yourself and be your version. Everyone, as a hypnotherapist, I would say this right now anyway, everyone needs an upgrade. We have learnt behaviors, limiting beliefs, traumas that are sitting in our subconscious, in our default setting. Mm-hmm. So 45% of the time we're in trance state anyway, because the brain, the body has to do so many functions. We have to go into trance and to create algorithms so to function fully. And when we go into that trance state, we go back, see the lens, we look at the world through the lens of that 0 to 10-year-old person. And so we'll start behaving in that way. So even if in a meeting, even the tone of a voice of your boss or the facial expression, the brain will say, that's similar to something else. I'll take you back to your childhood. It could be like your dad or your teacher or something. And suddenly you're feeling anxious, even though you have every right to be in that meeting and present because you're the most qualified person in the room. But suddenly you're feeling anxious, you've got sweaty palms, you can't present. I have many clients, male clients of mine, who go through that as well. They can't present because, as well as women, but again, is about them getting triggered by what's being said. They're made to feel bad about themselves, or they're allowing themselves to feel that way because they think, he's saying what my father used to say to me.
Right.
Sometimes they don't know. It's just the brain is saying, this is a pattern here. And they think, why am I feeling like this? Why am I feeling anxious? So again,
there's an interesting relationship between boys and their dads, isn't it? And just how much they're, the father-son relationship literally dictates so many people's lives and has such a massive impact. Do you know what I mean? It's probably something you see the most in your work, especially when dealing with men.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of anger issues, a lot of addictions, because then, they're paying out and they don't know how to deal with it. Obviously, they want to make sure that also culturally they want to be strong, depending on whether expats or not, but there's another culture where they're the strong guys and they have to basically be seen like that and do everything what the family tells them. Yeah. But now they don't have their own identity and they're saying yes, 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 but thinking, well, hang on a minute, I need to find who I am, but not reject you guys and not feel that I'm ostracized as well, but at least have my own identity. Or there's societal, things going on where people are married, they had arranged marriages and realize that they've drifted apart. This is not the life they wanted, trying to figure out who they are. But this plagued by guilt, shame. Am I being selfish by taking care of myself because it's better for the children? But all these things going on. But there's a lot of pressure. The fact is that one of the key things is the toxicity in the corporate world. Don't shoot me for it, but there is. Yep. And even though men think they can handle it, and they're handling it, it comes a point where they're actually about to break.
Just interesting to me that most guys don't have the perspective that they can handle so much more, but they're not doing it the right way. They've almost got to take a step back to relearn how to handle pressure, but to learn about themselves so that they can then propel themselves forward. But
the thing is, like you said before, firstly, the word therapy is like a dirty word for some people. That's why hypnosis is better. But again, they think, I don't need this. I know how I can move forward and I can drive and I push through and I drive through and there are some people who do think it's a sign of weakness. I don't think it's a sign of weakness. In fact, it's a sign of strength.
I think it's an opportunity to upgrade your operating system.
1,000%.
It's like you're walking around with this like Windows XP when you could be, the next best thing. Do you know what I mean? It's like an old Apple version. You could just upgrade your operating system by understanding more about yourself, the things that drive your decisions and drive your emotions, which then fuel everything you do in life.
It's peak performance. The thing is, do you want to be someone who's been led by the trauma, limiting beliefs, learned behaviors that you're not even aware of, or maybe aware of, but you think you overcome it? Or do you really want to be a proper upgrade of yourself, the true version of you, your true authentic version of you? And I mean, that's it. And everyone should go through that, because when you go through that, life is beautiful. Life is in a state of flow. When you're connected with yourself, you can take as much pressure as you want, because you can turn it into making it exciting. I mean, I do 10,000 things sometimes at the same time, and I run, but I love my life, and I flow with it. But I flow because I don't take on the pressure, the stress of it all. And even if I have done, I've had to do my practice and make sure I'm always in peak state for myself. And everything can be exciting no matter what the challenges are. And on top of that, I've got ADHD myself. So I wasn't diagnosed, and women weren't diagnosed. But I really found out, and I thought, well, I can be disorganized, I can be messy, but I'm hyper-focused, and when I want to go and do something, I will do it. And that, my ADHD has helped me get to where I am as well, right?
Yeah.
And, but equally, again, it's about you learning to connect with yourself, and you can be in flow and at peace, and life can be beautiful, and then you can really enjoy life. Because if you haven't got that upgrade, if you aren't connected with yourself, then you're not even enjoying life fully. And that's what upsets me, because it's a blessing. And I say to every client I have, and especially to my male clients who are brave enough to come and see me, that it's an honor to be working with them, and it's a blessing, because they get to, the way that they're grateful to me, and especially when they do realize what they're coming to get or experience, and when they've experienced it, they're so grateful, and it touches my heart. It really does, because
powerful work. I think it's a, if we're looking at this from a high performance perspective, it's, for parents, I just think it's vital to understand this kind of subconscious baggage you've probably got, and a responsibility, because you will pass that on unwittingly. And looking at it like learning about yourself, so that you've then got the opportunity to help your kids more, it's just so vital. And there's so many things you'll do without even realizing, which could be harming your kids.
Exactly. The thing, exactly. And sometimes you don't know what you're doing, and obviously I have to explain to parents.
Little things you might be saying, like the odd word, which you think is totally fine, or the odd opinion you've got and the way you express it.
And there's degrees of all of that, okay? That the kids have picked up on words that who are now adults, are saying, my mom used to say that to me, or my dad used to say that to me. And the parents now think, oh my God, I didn't realize that I was doing that, and I didn't realize it was affecting you so much. And and we're not making anyone bad, because, come on, we're all learning. However, it's so important that we can actually, we're in a generation now and a time where things are really changing, and mindsets are changing, and we have the opportunity to upgrade ourselves. If you look at Dr. Spiegel and Andrew Huberman's work and his podcast, they talk about hypnosis and talk about how it's not woohoo, you're in a deep state of relaxation, but laser focus. Tim Ferriss talks about it as well. And it's about how you can change belief systems, change habits, break habits, have new habits, and be a new version of yourself, and just feel good. And when you're in that frequency, again, as I talk about frequency, when you're feeling good, I swear to you, you can achieve anything. And you can, no matter what the pressure, as you said, you can handle it, because you're coming from that state of flow and connection with you, and knowing that you can visualize, that you can handle it. Everything is good. But when you're trying to control things and trying to be perfect for other people, then that's when it breaks.
Then it doesn't work. It's brilliant advice. Samira, you've got some really exciting things coming up. We spoke briefly about a project you've got coming up. Tell me about that.
Okay, so normally I work with my clients, obviously Anxious to Awesome. That's the program I work with on the whole, and to help them overcome anxiety, overthinking, low self-esteem. But my other passion project is iQuantum Academy, and that's something that I'm launching.
iQuantum Academy.
Yes. So I feel that there's 4 levels that we have to work on. We have to work on the physical, which is fitness and nutrition, but but we also have to work on the mental and emotional. It's becoming more and more apparent that we have to, and that changes our energy. And we need to be, and there's enough studies about being in the highest frequency, okay? So if you tap a tuning fork on here, the same size tuning fork, if you just tap this tuning fork here, this one here, if you just hold it, one will start to vibrate. And everything in our life is a frequency and a vibration. And it's very, very important that we are at the highest vibration for ourselves and into be a flow state. And how do we do that? We access ourselves and be in a deeper state with ourselves. And we have to master that, about loving ourselves. And some people may think, oh, that's a bit naff, but it isn't. It's about connecting with ourselves at a deeper level. And to be loving ourselves, being kind to ourselves, saying the right words to ourselves, thinking good thoughts to ourselves, and being in a state of flow and mastering that every day, because we're bombarded with lots and lots of negativity every single day. And what I find is that all my clients, they progress. However, what I find is that sometimes people find it difficult to get into the habit and to be really getting that support. So what I've launched is called iQuantum Academy, and again, really mastering yourself at a deeper level, but a daily accountability. So between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m., I have certain things that I will be doing that my clients are really excited about joining. That we join on Zoom, we'll be on mute, but be as accountable to each other. We'll be training, we'll be doing our meditations, breathing techniques, all the things that we want to do for the day to be in a peak state performance before we go out into the world.
So you set the day up. So essentially it's a global group, a community online, where you have a daily habit routine that sets everyone up for the whole day.
Yeah, and everyone logs on.
Yeah.
And basically, so actually if you want to log on at 5 a.m., then it's going to be for the UAE, but it's between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. that we log on, and basically we're on mute. And I may be interjecting and saying things and giving people pep talks and things, but really it's about seeing everyone as a collective, doing their training, doing their breathing, all the things that we need to get done to be in peak state to set ourselves for the day.
Brilliant. I think that's such a fantastic idea. We, within our character on the program, we have a daily habit routine we teach kids, which it brings in elements of the 3 C's: confidence, conduct, concentration. So they'll do 1 or 2 minutes of meditation. They'll do something physical, which, boosts their confidence, but often gets the blood pumping, or it could be affirmations. And then conduct is either writing things down they're grateful for or helping out around the house in some way. During COVID, we had, for like a year, we wanted to do something to start everyone's day. So they had a routine despite lockdown. So we had this 30 minutes, the whole Warrior Academy around the whole world was doing the same Zoom call every single day together. It was incredible. And you've got this, families popping up all over the world, UAE, the UK, everywhere. We even had students join us from France, from Spain, from Australia and America. And eventually you just had this community where everyone would get together. They'd all be on mute, but they'd all be doing something similar, which has that kind of energy, which then just started the day off on a really brilliant, positive way, despite the fact they were going to stay at home the whole day, right?
Yeah.
Back in those days.
That's incredible. I'd say my passion, as I said to you, I'm living my passion and my purpose. I believe I came to do this work and I'm really aligned. And I help my clients to go over the 5 A's, which is most people come here to me with anxiety, ADHD, overthinking. So that's A. But then it leads to addictions like emotional eating, alcohol, smoking, whatever. And then it leads to autoimmune, like IBS, all sorts of other illnesses. And so I help them to overcome their abuse, their childhood trauma and things. So I help them overcome their 5 A's to become a triple A, which is authentically aligned in abundance.
Brilliant.
And so doing the iQuantum Academy, being accountable on Zoom, on mute, as a community, it's just like my passion to get everyone to be this highest frequency. Yeah. And I'm determined to get that globally, as many people as possible. On my website, it's 9 million people, but whoever wants to do it. And I'll be very happy if they want to join. And when I told my clients I was going to do that, they were super excited. So I think it's a very powerful way to do things. And I think a lot of people just who are like-minded, who just want to log on and be part of it, as opposed to being surrounded by people who are not. Because we say you have to be around the 5 people that you want to be around. Sometimes we don't have a choice. No.
Environment dictates performance.
Exactly.
That's it.
So,
what's the website or the best place for you to get hold of you?
To get hold of me, you can go to my website, it's Rapamaya Redesign. You can always book a call there. I've got WhatsApp there as well, so you can always WhatsApp me any questions, any issues as well.
Amazing. Samira, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's been brilliant. Thank you.
I really hope you enjoyed today's Warrior Academy podcast episode. We're going to keep creating these episodes because I know that so many parents find them useful or get insights or get ideas about how to develop their child's character. But it all comes down to the 3 C's: confidence, conduct, and concentration. So if you want to get a deep insight into the levels of confidence your child has, the level of concentration they have, or the level of conduct they have, so that you can actually put a score next to it and then work towards increasing those scores like we do in the Warrior Academy, then I'd love to invite you to fill in the Breakthrough Area Assessment. It takes about 5 minutes of your time, and you will get a personalized PDF report on your child's 3 C's. To access the Breakthrough Area Assessment and find out your child's 3 C's score, all you need to do is go to www.breakthrougharea.com.